Hola comunidad EH Plus, estamos aquí de vuelta y nos encontramos listos para entrevistar a nuestro próximo protagonista. Es un hombre a quien yo admiro mucho antes de conocer, con una inteligencia política que llama mi atención. Es un hombre sagaz, de una calidad humana profunda, y me place contar con él hoy aquí para conversar. El señor embajador James Wally Brewster. Hola. Wally,
Thank you,
¿cómo
Adalia.
estás?
It's great to see you, and always, and being in this beautiful place, it's the perfect morning.
Para mí es muy importante hacer esta pregunta. ¿Cómo se siente en este momento de su vida?
I always tell people that I'm one of the best people to say how blessings can come to you. Every day I wake up, I look back at my life and I look at it now, and God has given me so many blessings that I can't even count them anymore. And sometimes I wonder why I've been so blessed. But hopefully I can keep moving that forward to other people. But it's amazing. It's amazing right now. And so I'm in one of the best places I've ever been in life. And being here with you is one of those other great adventures.
Qué bello. Embajador, a usted se le conoce como Wally, es como cálido, la
Yes.
gente lo siente cercano. ¿Por qué no su primer nombre? ¿Cuál es la historia de que usted mismo diga, my name is Wally? ¿Y cuál es la historia de su apellido, Brewster? Háblenos un poquito de eso para conocerlo.
So we are of Scottish descent, and my dad, I'm a junior. See, so his name is James Walter Brewster Jr. See, so my father went by James. So that's why when I was growing up, I had an uncle that had a nickname Wally. And so that's how I became Wally. When I was graduating from college, I was told Wally was not a formal name. I should begin to go by James. But everybody knew me as Wally. And so as my husband books said, breaking protocol, I've never been one to subscribe to what you're supposed to do.
Claro.
And so I kept the name Wally. And that's what my friends and the people that know me well call me. Yes.
Embajador, ¿en qué se ha enfocado luego de dejar la carrera diplomática, especialmente en la República Dominicana? ¿Qué ha estado haciendo todo este tiempo?
Sure. Hopefully I continue to do some diplomatic engagement, but not officially for the U.S. government. I think we started some great work here with our friends and also the administrations here that promoted human rights, that promoted trade, promoted relationships with other countries, and really embrace the relationship between the Dominican people and the people in the United States, and all of those that live in both nations. So what I decided to do is start a company, Insignias Global, that focused on political and trade advisory work. And in that process, unfortunately, my business partner, who was a lovely lady, Kim Merrill, passed away of a really severe, quick cancer. And I only share that because you don't know how fast life goes by. And so I ended up randomly, through one of our Dominican friends, Rudy Fuentes, who is a wonderful human being, but a great Dominican-American businessman. My current partner, Ralph Patino, who had founded the Latino Victory Fund during the Obama campaign with Eva Longoria, Henry Munoz, and some other prominent Latino and Latina Americans. And so we started a company that does the same. We work with governments and we work with private industry, and we promote trade in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as promote diplomatic engagement between nations.
Ustedes abrieron una oficina jurídico comercial de República Dominicana, se llama Partido Brewster. ¿Por qué la sede aquí en República Dominicana? ¿Y qué está haciendo internacionalmente para otros países? En cualquier aspecto comercial, político.
Well, one of the reasons why that we have an office both in Miami, Dallas, Washington, D.C., and of course, Santo Domingo, and the reason that we focus a lot on the Dominican Republic is, one, I was very blessed, as have been Ralph, to have a lot of great relationships with business leaders in the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean and the rest of Latin America. So obviously you go where your relationships are when you start business because people hopefully trust you. But you also understand the dynamics of the business culture and the opportunities. And for me, I think everybody who's watching this knows that I have a strong belief in the opportunities of the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean as a whole. And I think that people underestimate the strength of the business leaders here, how smart they are, how many opportunities there still are in this country for investors. And also, I think those who live in this beautiful paradise sometimes don't realize the opportunities externally in the rest of the world that they could have when they really looked at the opportunities as well. So we're hopefully merging all of that thought process and helping expand those aspects.
¿Alguna inversión en el sector de energía o hidrocarburos ha captado para el país?
So we have investors that are currently looking at the different programs and the different opportunities that the current government as well as in the private sector are looking at when it comes to LNG, bringing other carbon type products to the country, as well as the infrastructure. And I've been meeting with officials with the government to speak about what the upcoming opportunities are in all sectors of energy. I feel it's critical that every nation should have energy independence. And no nation will always be completely energy independent, but definitely we can move towards greater opportunities for clean energy. And we also need to look at the development banks, which we've been working with some Dominican companies, to bring also opportunity to support the money that it takes to switch from carbon to clean energy process. So we're working both in the financing sector, outside investments, and bringing new companies that are global to look at and see what the value is here when it comes to investing in energy. Promoting with the government a stronger bid process so that it's more fair for international companies to participate. And then also making sure that they are able to go through the process in a very easy way. So it's a multi-pronged approach that we're taking, but the end result is to have more people investing in the Dominican Republic in all of the energy sector, not just one area.
Hay un proyecto del gobierno que se llama Alianzas Público-Privadas. ¿Cómo usted cree que ese proyecto del gobierno pueda potenciar más para que sea mejor utilizado en los sectores de energía y hidrocarburos?
Sure. I very much believe in public-private partnerships. I think it allows a checks and balance system between the institutions of the government and those in the private sector that can work together and make sure that there's more investment coming in. And it's not just controlled by the government, and it's just not individually controlled by the private sector. And I think as long as there's a fair bid process, it's important because it provides opportunities for international investors as well as domestic investors to partner together with the government to really move projects forward. So I've always believed in public-private partnerships. I think it also gives, if set up properly, which I hope is one of the things that the Dominican Republic continues to move forward, is it allows minority companies that are women-owned are owned by other minorities to have opportunities to bid on projects and participate, where in the past it may have just been a few individuals that ended up with those contracts because of their relationship with the governments.
Hablando un poquito ya del tema del gobierno, ¿qué futuro le ve usted a la República Dominicana políticamente hablando? En 2 años, por ejemplo.
So I think it's really up to the Dominican people, and I'm always very cautious to talk too much about politics, although I do a lot, unfortunately. I cannot do that. But I think it's up to the Dominican people really to determine what they want for their future. And I didn't grow up here, so it's very hard for me to understand the dynamics of how someone sees their nation and how they see their political outlook. So,
Pero usted tuvo una posición, un cargo importante y muchas oportunidades.
Sí.
Usted pudo haber hecho una apreciación de un tema puntuable, claro, pero usted muchas veces pudo decir lo que usted pensaba de lo que estaba sucediendo. Y eran críticas
absolutely.
muy honestas y severas, pero bueno, era lo que usted tenía que decir y su personalidad.
yeah. No, Adalia, I think you're exactly right. And, you know, I think it comes down to values. And I think the values that I speak about of any government, and I'm including in the United States as well. But as you know, I fought against corruption. And I still strongly believe that a strong democracy has to, one, try to continue to put change in place so that corruption does not happen. It's never going to be perfect, but you also can't deny that it happens. And I think my frustration at times is when people go, oh, there's not any corruption. Oh, I don't know anybody that's corrupt. I think once we accept our weaknesses, that's when we can become stronger. That's the first thing. The second thing in a strong democracy, as your Constitution says, is having opportunity for all Dominican citizens. That's not just a few. It's not just for those that look like most of the politicians. It's for everybody. It's every Dominican. And so it's making sure that you give opportunities and pull up those who don't have those great advantages that some of us have been blessed to have, and give them opportunity to participate and protect them under the law. I think that makes a strong democracy when everybody, and it's proven, when everybody can participate, you have a much stronger democracy. And then I think it's important for the people to participate in democracy, and that's voting. And you have to have a strong voting process that's fair. People aren't paid to vote. It's an open media so that media isn't paid to say what certain political parties want them to say. And that the people really stand up and say, we want this strong democracy that has a relationship with democratic governments like the United States. And that the private sector and the public sector work together to make it an even stronger economy. So it's really about all participation for everybody. And I think that is what I push when I talk about human rights, when I talk about democracy, when I talk about participation of all aspects of people within a government, when I talk about really looking at your Constitution that is written to have everybody participate, and get rid of those laws and increase the opportunities to make sure that everybody is able to participate free and fairly, both in the economic and the social sector.
Bueno, usted ha recibido 3 premios por Estados Unidos, por el Estado de Estados Unidos, sobre la lucha contra la corrupción y los derechos humanos. En ese sentido, hay una parte de comunicadores dominicanos que comentan que usted recibió presión cuando fue embajador, presión de algunos empresarios para que usted sacara o decidiera sacar el gobierno anterior por supuesta corrupción. ¿Qué tan cierto fue eso?
It is not true at all. I mean, it's an absolute no. I think hopefully the Dominican people, after knowing me for the 3.5 years that I was ambassador, but also the 15 years that I traveled here and had a home here prior, that I am who you see. No one's going to pressure me to do anything. I say what I think and believe. So does my husband, as sometimes more than I do. But I would never be pressured to do something specific. Corruption isn't one person or one political party. Corruption is the way that people see and participate in society. Same in the United States. So I don't want people to walk away and say, oh, the ambassador is saying that everyone in the Dominican Republic is part of corruption. It is more endemic in who and how we think. And so I don't think you can point the finger to one person or one political party. And so I would never be pressured to, especially at the time I represented the United States, nor even as a private citizen, to specifically do something that had impact on a specific political party here. Because that's really up to the Dominican people to make the decision of who is the right party to lead them and the right person to lead them. That's not my decision, nor should I influence that. But I will stand up, whether it's any of the political parties, when I feel that there is something going on from a human rights perspective, corruption perspective, or any other issue that's happening.
Si usted fuera de nacionalidad dominicana, porque dominicano de corazón es si lo queremos,
Yeah.
¿A qué partido pertenecería? De los tres que han estado los últimos años participando en política. Tranquilo, relax.
No. Yeah, no.
No es un compromiso.
I don't get anxious at all because that's a very easy question. You know, it's not about the party.
Es fácil, wow.
And the reason I say it's not about the party is, if you look in the United States, I am definitely a Democrat. If you look at the platform of the Republican Party, it says that they're against the rights of LGBTQ individuals to be married. They're against the right of a woman to have control over her own body. They are against allowing an immigration system that allows people who are struggling in their countries to have an opportunity in a new nation, like many Dominicans have, over 2 million in the United States. It is against gun laws. These are things that I feel very, very strong about. And especially when it comes to me personally. You know, my husband and I hope have lived a great life in the respect of how people see us, and that we've helped others and not caused harm to anyone. And for a political party to say that I don't have the right to marry the person that I love and to live as every other American does, and mainly have the rights under the law. It's not religion, the rights under the law, to have the same rights as a straight married couple, to me is something I can't accept. So let's go back to the Dominican Republic. Currently, there's no political party that stands up for the rights of everyone to be equal under the law. There's no political party that is really out there promoting women and leadership of women and the equal pay of women to the level of what men get paid. There's no political party that's out there really promoting making sure that LGBTQ individuals are protected and treated equally under the law. So it really would be about the candidate. And you do have some really good candidates and really good people in government that promote those things. So, but when it comes to a party platform, where the Democratic Party platform in the United States is very much pro all of the things I mentioned and why I'm a strong Democrat, there is not one in the Dominican Republic that I would say would fit, because for me, none of them yet are out there in front saying they would agree in protecting my marriage if I was a Dominican. So I can't.
Bueno, pero eso es un punto personal, de su vida personal.
Sí.
No necesariamente un punto donde tú tengas que estar en desacuerdo con otras cosas que sí son importantes en un país y que los gobiernos lo toman en cuenta y lo respetan. Cuando usted fue embajador, por ejemplo, se le criticó mucho que usted quería imponer una agenda LGTB. Y inclusive tuvo encuentros con católicos, políticos,
Sí.
empresarios. ¿Eso le afectó de alguna manera su agenda protocolar de trabajo asignada como embajador? O sea, ¿le causó algún problema de que usted, bueno, pues pensase o aquí se dijese que usted estaba más enfocado en eso que a lo mejor en una agenda de trabajo? Digo yo,
Yeah.
¿eso le causó alguna situación?
So, Adalia, that's one of the best questions you could have asked. Maybe one time, maybe two times, did I bring up LGBTQ individuals. The Cardinal is the one that brought it up first time. Every time I was interviewed, the interviewer would bring it up. The press would bring it up. I never spoke about it unless I was asked about it. So the idea that I brought an agenda is something that I kind of laugh about because I never led with the conversation other than the protection of rights under the law. It was always asked of me. So that's why I find it interesting. It was an interesting topic. But there's two things when people elevate I do a speech about elevating tough conversations. Those who speak the loudest against something, in my opinion, usually are those who have something to hide. And so they're deflecting. Does that make sense?
O sea, ¿usted entiende que hay un poco de hipocresía en cuanto a, honestamente, dejar al otro ser? No digamos aceptarlo, porque eso es algo muy personal, pero
Absolutely.
déjalo ser.
See, but I think a lot of times when people want to go after a specific group, they're hiding something in their own personal life, or they're deflecting something personally that they want people to believe they are somebody who they're not. Whether it's religion, whether it's social, or whether it's who they are as a human being. And so that's why those who scream the loudest typically are those who have something that they're trying to have people think of them as some way they're really not. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it gave people an opportunity to have press. So anytime someone who wanted to be in the papers could say something about the embajador and him being gay and his positions, so they would make the front page of the paper. It would help them with their followers. Donald Trump is the perfect example. He can lie. He can say things that we know aren't true, but yet those who follow him, the press is going to show it because it's good news, and then it picks up those followers who have those false beliefs. So we saw that, it was an opportunity for those people. So we tried not to talk against them too much because we didn't want to give them the opportunity to have press. But the last thing I will say on that is that I'm never going to shy away from defending the marginalized. And so I think it's important that when it was brought up, that we spoke about the issue. That's why I speak about elevating tough conversations. It was a blessing that was a conversation while we were in the Dominican Republic. Because if you go back 4 years prior to me being here, people didn't want to talk about gay.
No.
People didn't want to have it as a conversation with their family. See. And when the U.S. ambassador is there with his husband, it gave the opportunity to have the conversation. And hopefully for people in the marginalized communities to see that it's okay, that they can live how God created them. And hopefully we're in a better place because of that. But I give President Obama the credit for putting me and giving me the platform to be beside my husband, to hopefully do good diplomatic work. as a gay man. So.
O sea que realmente, viendo el punto de vista positivo, porque yo veo las cosas siempre positivo, usted vino a poner un granito de arena a esas personas que se sentían realmente marginados. Y te vino a decir, no, eso es una realidad, existe. Es cuestión de sentimiento, de personalidad. No podemos a una persona aislarla por cualquier situación que pueda aparentar una debilidad. Porque igual pasa con los discapacitados.
Sure.
Pasa con muchas personas marginadas que no son solamente por una predilección sexual, sino aquí a los minusválidos la gente lo rechaza, a cualquier persona que tenga una difusión también lamentablemente sucede. Pero donde más se enfatizó fue como usted ser un diplomático, pues la gente como que delante de usted llegar realmente, ya que había un revuelo grandísimo. Pero honestamente, es como usted dice, en mi opinión personal también creo que hay un poco de hipocresía humana en uno entender y aceptar a las personas como deciden y quieran vivir. Eso es algo muy, muy personal y lo que importa es lo que la persona hace, lo que la persona representa para lo que hace o para el otro. Y usted hablaba de dos partidos americanos, de dos tipos de presidentes.
Sí.
¿Cuál es la diferencia entre los planes para Latinoamérica que tenía el presidente Clinton contra lo que tiene el presidente Biden? O sea, ¿cuál es la real diferencia en cuanto al cambio climático, en cuanto a la transición energética, en cuanto a la conciencia del uso de energía?
Sí.
¿Cuál es la diferencia que tienen estos dos presidentes?
Sure. So going back to President Clinton, which was many years ago, I think he had a great focus on relationships between the Caribbean and the United States, specifically the Dominican Republic, because he loves his country as well, as everybody knows. But I think when it comes to the Biden administration compared to the Clinton administration, and once again, I don't know all of what his administration did at the time, but the Biden administration is focused on the environment because our world has become very much more understanding of climate change. It's no longer a conversation, as many said around the Clinton time, not his administration, but the world said, oh, this is fake. Well, you're seeing the beaches go away. You're seeing changes in the weather patterns around the world. You're seeing the Arctic melt. So the Biden administration is very focused on that with the rest of the world, on making sure that the Paris Accord and the agreements that we have around the world are progressed. In the Clinton administration, there was other things that were the focus, but that wasn't as big of a focus. When it comes to human rights, we still weren't, as a culture in the United States, one that understood the discrimination that was happening in the Latin community, in the LGBTQ community, against women, in the Asian community. There was so much discrimination, especially in the community police against people in the Black community and people of color. So I think now we're much more aware of that. And so the Biden administration tries to be much more inclusive and really look at our laws where everyone can participate, and also promote young people, diversity, which at the time, it just wasn't at that place during the Clinton administration. So I think the values are still there. The values of having an inclusive world and an inclusive democracy in the US, but we as a society have progressed since then. And so we are in a much better place to make that happen than we were back then. In the Clinton administration, someone who was LGBTQ could not be part of the military, if you remember. So it was a time that we were still going through. But I think it's important that, going back to your question about me being here, because I want to make sure we kind of got on the LGBTQ topic. You know, my focus was not coming as a gay ambassador. My focus was coming as a U.S. ambassador. And my focus every day going to the office was working with all of the areas of the U.S. government to make sure that we were moving forward the relationships and opportunities between the two nations. Obviously, the press talking about me being gay and my husband found that a more interesting topic. So that always, you know, is something I didn't shy away from. But I came as a U.S. citizen that was serving my country, not as a gay ambassador.
Claro.
It just happened to be how God created me, and I was with my husband. So even though that was something I didn't shy away from, I tried to stay at the focus of my job was to be more holistic and focus on everything that we needed to do and that not be the main focus. And I think we made a lot of great progress in that.
Entonces, en sentido general, Estados Unidos está muy enfocado en cooperar con el tema del cambio climático. Es algo muy importante, puntuable de esta administración.
Very much so. You know, Secretary Kerry, John Kerry, who was under President Obama, is now the environmental czar for the Biden administration. And as the Dominican Republic was part of the Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles a few months ago, as well as most recently we were all in New York, as I saw you up there during the United Nations. Globally, countries are participating in 2030, which is really looking at moving things forward quickly to make sure that we're protecting the environment. So, for example, we are putting billions of dollars behind making sure that all cars move to be electric by 2030. We're moving forward in putting charging stations all around the U.S. so that that concern isn't away. We're giving incentives to other countries, which I'm hoping to participate in as well, with development banks and others that we have relationships with and investors, to move forward in a very quick way the switch from carbon energy to clean energy, both in the United States and in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic included, and Latin America, and participating in the energy conversations that are important to figure out how we can work together to make that happen as quickly as possible. Then there's a lot of education programs to help people understand how to conserve energy and how to participate in the energy economy where we can save our planet. We personally, as a company, Patino Brewster, are working with an environmental group. We've spoken with President Abinadar and the former Minister of Environment, God bless him, who is no longer with us, and the current Minister of Environment, to bring in a group that does environmental studies and research centers so that we can work on the ocean, working with Sylvia Earle, who's a famous oceanographer, and looking at the Dominican Republic as a test nation to learn how to build environmentally friendly resorts and create a research center here. We're actually in 2 weeks looking at Puerto Plata as an opportunity. We've also looked up closer to Punta Cana to do a research facility for the region to protect the oceans and have the Dominican Republic as its base. And those are investors from the outside as well as big foundations.
Son proyectos con el gobierno.
These are projects that we are asking the government to, participate with us, not financially, just to allow us the opportunity to go through the process. But it's private sector.
Permisologías, locaciones,
Sí, yes.
expertos en
Exactly.
tema de ambiente en República Dominicana.
Yeah, but these are people that are actually going to invest the money and bring the research in, and they're not asking money from the government or anything from the government. They just want the opportunity, like you said, to make sure that we facilitate the process and that there's no issues of being able to move forward with it. So it would all be private sector, but it's a huge opportunity for us to learn and how to protect the reefs, how to educate the fishermen, how to protect the oceans, all those things that we can do. And that's one of the objectives of Patino Brewster, is to help bring those type of investments, not just those that are trade, that make people money, but those that also are helping society as well as helping our environment.
Embajador, ¿qué opinión le mereció el proyecto Punta Catalina?
So President Medina and I had a lot of conversations, obviously, about Punta Catalina. You know, I think at the time, and I will separate all of the controversy around Punta Catalina when it was built and cost to what it provides energy-wise. My understanding, and I was not participating in it at the time, that there wasn't other energy opportunities that could be done as quickly to help the Dominican Republic move away from the tie to Venezuela and Petrocaribe. And so I give credit to the administration for figuring out quickly how to get away as one of the first countries to move away from Venezuela's tie. Because that was impacting so many things that many people don't realize when you had that tie with Venezuela. And so I felt very good that that tie was broken. So the facility and the way that it was done, I will leave to the Dominican people to determine if it was the right thing for them. But what I will say is, from what I was told by the administration, it was the best option at the time and the quickest option at the time to give some energy independence at a good cost to the Dominican people without being tied to Venezuelan oil and all of the other things that came along with that tie, such as being, though, forced to vote a certain way at the United Nations, forced to make decisions between the United States and Russia. Those were tough decisions, but naturally a president's going to make the decision to protect his people and the lights and the energy against diplomatic. So I thought that was a good thing that happened.
Pero hablando de Venezuela, República Dominicana siempre ha sido un aliado por muchos años comercial por el tema de los hidrocarburos. Y el embargo que mantiene Estados Unidos contra Venezuela en momentos afecta comercialmente las relaciones con nuestro país, con muchos.
Absolutely.
¿Qué tan cierto es que se está acercando el momento de que realmente se levante ese embargo? ¿Sabe algo al respecto?
So I was very blessed that I was responsible for the group that created the Caribbean policy for the Biden campaign, which much of that moved on in to the administration. So I have great relationships in Washington and with the Biden administration. I will never speak on behalf of the Biden administration, to be very clear, but what I will say when it comes to energy, I think we as the United States are realistic that we have to figure out, because of the situation with Ukraine and Russia, the energy situation in our region. And so, yes, there are conversations to figure out what we can do to make sure that not just the Dominican Republic, but other countries in the region and the United States don't have to depend on Iran or Saudi Arabia or other Middle Eastern countries, because we no longer have, nor does Europe, a lot of the energy that came from Russia, Ukraine, and other areas. So all of that is being evaluated on a case-by-case basis. And when it comes to Venezuela, there are conversations that we are having with the administration on behalf of companies in the Dominican Republic in the energy sector, as well as companies in the U.S. On looking at what is a way to continue to make sure that Maduro is held accountable for the human rights violations and the way that the people are being treated in Venezuela. But also, how can we make sure that maybe there's opportunity in the energy sector to kind of thread the needle on both? Because once again, sometimes you have to do things that don't feel great, but you have to look at what is for the greater good. The United States' main objective, though, is to make sure that the Venezuelan people eventually have the right to live freely and openly in their country. So I will leave that to my friends in Washington, but we are having those conversations about how can we begin to free up some energy in the region so that we do have more energy independence and that there's more energy flowing. But there's some incredibly innovative things that I can't speak about that companies here and in the United States are looking at to make sure that we don't even have to do that in the future. So I think that's our objective. You do some things sometimes in the short term you don't want to do as much, but if you don't prepare for the future so you never have to do those things again in life and in business, then that's where you make your mistakes. So we're looking at the future as well and how can we prepare for the future.
Embajador, ¿será porque usted conoce tanto la idiosincrasia dominicana, la política dominicana, el dominicano per se, que nosotros y otras personas de otros países lo ven como el embajador de facto de la República Dominicana? Y uno se pregunta, dejando eso a un lado de que eso es como algo cierto, es como el poder detrás del trono, porque a 3 años de gobierno del presidente Biden todavía no hay una designación oficial de un embajador en República Dominicana.
Well, I think, one, I want to say that Robert Thomas, who is the chargé, has done an incredible job of leading the embassy. And the team that is there is really the ones who do all the work and represent the United States in an incredible way. I know the ambassador does make a difference. And the reason why, I think there's multiple reasons. One is there was a nominee. He chose to shift and go to another country in the Caribbean. So I think that slowed the process down a little bit. There has been a challenge in the Senate by the Republican Party to hold many nominations and approvals by the Senate by the Republican Party, so it slowed the process down a lot. And I think maybe the Biden administration just hasn't found the right person that is going to be the right person for the Dominican Republic. But I think it's very important as well that there continues to be a building of relationships with the United States. And they continue to see, especially the Biden administration, which I tell them daily, the importance of the Dominican Republic on all areas of relationships. So, you know, I don't know what the future holds, but once again, I think the embassy is doing a great job.
Si usted aceptara ser nuevamente el embajador para la República Dominicana, dígame de cosas que usted haría si fuera nuevamente el embajador de la República Dominicana, de cosas importantes que a usted le gustaría que se hicieran, que se trabajaran.
So I think there's many, so to pick 2 would be very difficult. I think that the relationship with Haiti is critical. And there's so much history that in this interview I won't give my opinion because we have the same history and the same challenges in the U.S. with Mexico and with some of our neighbors. But I think, in my opinion, helping people, and this is going to be very controversial, I know, but as someone said in the United Nations, someone who comes across a border, someone who takes their family away from their culture and who they know and where they've grown up, and they leave everything, they're desperate. And so to show that compassion of understanding that if it was your child and they couldn't eat or they were in danger, and you would leave everything you know and leave everything behind and go somewhere where you don't speak the language. And I'm not saying about Haitians coming to the Dominican Republic, I'm speaking about immigration as a whole. That we need to have compassion around the world for those people, because those are people that are forced to leave. People don't look at the United States and go, oh, I just want to go and leave my nation. They go because they don't see opportunity where they're currently living, and they're giving up everything to do that. So the first thing is I would hope to educate people on that people aren't intentionally taking advantage of someone else. They would like to be independent.
Seguiré trabajando porque tengamos más empatía con el tema de la migración.
I think as human beings overall, not just in the Dominican Republic, I'm talking of everyone. So I think that that would be one of the things. The second thing is, I think just continuing to help the Dominican business community and the U.S. business community and the regional community continue to explore and take advantage of the opportunities about this great nation. And eliminate some of the barriers that are structural in having investments from the international community, as well as doing business here. And for getting rid of some of the barriers of how difficult it is for Dominican companies to expand internationally into the U.S. on the U.S. side. So I think those would be the things that I would work on to make it much easier, because there's a lot of structural barriers on both sides for companies on both nations to be able to do business.
Nosotros como país tenemos una invasión silente día a día de haitianos. Consumen una gran parte del presupuesto de salud también. En oportunidades ha habido inclusive contrabando de combustibles. Y se ha pensado en todo, realmente, cómo solucionar, cómo minorizar los problemas. ¿Cree usted que un muro realmente ayudaría?
That's a decision by your government. And so I can't pretend to know, once again, the history, and I'm not one responsible for...
No, pero por ejemplo, Bill Clinton lo implementó con México. O sea, yo no estoy pidiendo su opinión en cuanto a política, sino a que resultaría.
No. But that's what I was going to say. So I can give you my opinion on the wall in Texas and California, because I personally, in that situation, do not agree with it at all. Because I think there's ways, and you do need a strong immigration policy. You need legal immigration. You can't just open the borders and allow everybody to come in. But there needs to be a process that protects the human rights, give asylum seekers the opportunity to come in and be heard by the appropriate entities, and for people to be treated with dignity and respect. But also, once again, you just can't have everybody flowing in. I agree with your comment that the Dominican Republic is burdened with a lot of the cost of what's happening over in Haiti. And I agree that there's a better opportunity to have a solid policy on the border of how to make sure that you have legal flow of immigration. I also believe that there should be documentation and opportunity to make sure that migrant workers can come here to help in those sectors where it's needed to keep the economy going, and provide them fair wages and opportunities and being treated with the dignity, and also be able to do the things, let their children be able to be educated while they're here, but then when they go back, you know, that Haiti understands how they can flow in and out as migrant workers. So I think there's a lot of work to be done between the two governments. When it comes to the wall here, once again, I don't want to speak against it because I wasn't part of the decision-making process and wasn't in the room to determine why. So I'm not going to say that's really, or what I'm going to say is it's really up to the Dominican people and the government to make that decision. What I will say is that building walls, in my opinion, if people are desperate, they will find a way anyway. And I think when you put a wall up, whether it's in your personality or whether it's in your personal life, professional life, with your partner or spouse, with your family, or whether it's with another country, you're saying, I don't want you over here. And it creates a psychological barrier that says, we are different than you, we don't want you. And I think anytime we're living as a world together, building walls, as they saw in China, is not a good thing. But I'm not going to say that it's the wrong thing here to begin to help the flow that is the concern, and a valid concern. I think it's going to be important that there continues to be diplomatic relationships between the two countries. So once again, it will be up to the Dominican people to determine what they do and do not like. And that's why the same in the U.S.
Hemos sido muy nobles con los haitianos, muy nobles. Los hemos tratado como seres humanos, les damos salud, les damos comida, les damos empleo. Recientemente escuché la semana pasada que el encargado de Naciones del Occidente estaba proporcionando una moción para aprobar una invasión militar a Haití por vandalismo de Estados Unidos.
No.
Eso está... Yo digo,
No. That is not true.
¿Será finalmente un preámbulo de que ustedes realmente se estabilicen ahí y tomen Haití?
I know, no, and I know it very well. Know it very, very well. It is not true.
No se quedan en las redes.
It is not true. It's in the media, exactly. If that says something. No offense to the media.
No, I can go ahead.
No, I think, no, the United States is not going to invade. We are providing support. Fake news, yes.
Wow.
We are providing support to the National Police of Haiti. And we're continuing to work with Haiti and the international community, as there was just a meeting with the UN Security Council, I think yesterday or the day before, to really work together to figure out how solutions to continue to support security, toning down and going against the gangs. And there's a lot of things that we can do that are being implemented. And that's where this conversation came from. There was conversations about how do we increase security help, but it would not be bringing in military and invasion, or even occupation, which is what I call what we did in the Dominican Republic. I think y'all call it invasion, and that's good. I think, but it's also really putting sanctions against those families that are causing chaos and supporting the gangs, many that don't even live in Haiti, because they have made so much money off of chaos that they don't want a legitimate government in place, because off of all of the corruption and the violence, they know how to make money. And so they support that. And that is what the United States was saying, is we can now put sanctions, begin to freeze assets, the same against the gang members and the leaders, begin to look at visas, all of the things that we can do financially in the international community to begin to put sanctions against all these people that are causing this challenge, as well as continuing to look for solutions of how to provide training, which we're already doing, other support for the Haitian National Police to be able to fight against these horrible gangs that are essentially impacting the human rights of the Haitian people. Many who are young children that are waking up every day without food in Haiti. And I care about the Haitian people because you see that, people grow up in a country and yes, they're impacted by what their government has done, but they have not had any control other than their vote over being put in the situation they're in. You know, you're born when you're born. And you were blessed to be born in the Dominican Republic, correct? You could have easily been born on the other side of the island. And by God's grace. And so I think, yes, the Dominican Republic, going back, deserves the international help because of the cost to this country of the migrants that come across and those who use the resources. But know that if we could help, not the Dominican Republic, the international community, provide the same resources in Haiti, they wouldn't have to come across the border. And so I think that's where the objective needs to be on the international front, working with the Dominican Republic and the Haitian governments. And that's why I go back to say the governments all need to be working together in a very proactive way so that these challenges that the Dominican Republic is having because of the strife in Haiti, we can mitigate those long term. And that's why I say look at the long-term solutions and deal with the short-term situations.
Señor embajador, entonces, sentido general, ¿usted entiende que el país tiene una estabilidad jurídico-política para inversiones, estabilidad, progreso?
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, I think that, I tell people when they're talking about investing, and some of the investors that we brought to the Dominican Republic, they were looking at other nations, both in the healthcare sector, in the energy sector, in the environmental sector. They were looking at other nations. And I said, you need to partner in the Dominican Republic. You've got, DR CAFTA. You've got a relationship with the US. You've got over 2.5 million diaspora in the US that still love the country that they grew up in or that their heritage is from. You have incredible, brilliant Dominican business people that know how to do business in this country. You've got international investors. You've got governments that continue to progress of how to deal and work with international investments. You've got strong banks and a strong banking system with Bond Reservists and other banks here in the Dominican Republic. So there's just so much that can be done. We just need to work on getting rid of some of the institutional barriers that are in the way. And a lot of it is just bureaucratic challenges that have been created for many years past that can easily go away and make it much easier. And that's what we're working, hopefully, with the Dominican government and the private sector.
¿Qué es lo que más disfruta de República Dominicana?
Many things. The coffee, the food, people know Chocorica. Yes, yeah, I know the Braches love for me to talk about Chocorica, and Pedro is a wonderful man, but I do love my Chocorica. I can't have it too often, but...
La cocoa, el café, el cacao,
sí.
el tabaco.
The chocolate, no tobacco. I love the cigars that come out of the Dominican Republic, but I do not smoke them. It's a great thing. But I love the vibrancy of the people. I love the dynamics of the music. I love the artists that are here. You have the most beautiful beaches in the world. I mean, we traveled to Greece and we were laying on the beaches and we were like, well, this isn't anything special that we can't have when we're at home in the Dominican Republic. So, I think there's such great opportunity. And for me as a businessman and someone who is close to the Biden administration, our company, Patino Brewster, the reason we are doing so much work here is because we see the opportunities. And so I get frustrated, but I love to look at the future. And as a strategist, it's fun to work here because I see the opportunities that others may not see. And so I could keep going on and on, but it's the people, the culture, the nation itself, the frustrations. What I don't like, traffic. Very challenging. And I know there's a new program that started yesterday. I don't know anything about it.
Dicen que el que
But I
maneja
hope, and I
en
would say it
República
has to get
Dominicana
better.
sobrevive cualquier cosa.
Has to get better. Yes. I think we need to continue to work on education for everybody. Technology is a huge opportunity. Healthcare, this as a distribution and a base for the region, I think can progress. I just think that there's so much work that can be done. And I think the tourism sector is even a small part of how great it could be with a focus by the public and private sector on knowing and working together on how to promote the opportunities. We're sitting here in Port Azul in the Zona Colonial, and very few Americans know that literally a block down is where Columbus actually started what we call the New Free World. And even though he was a horrible human being, it is for our history in 1492 what we learn in the United States. But we don't promote that from the Dominican Republic, that this is where the first school, the first hospital, the first so many things happened. And so I think there's opportunities. The mountains in Jarabacoa, Constanza, all these incredible places have yet. Puerto Plata.
Definitivamente.
Just so much. Yeah.
Siempre comparto con mis invitados. Este es un juego de cartas que lo creó mi hija, que se llama Hablemos sin filtro.
Ah, yes, and she's beautiful, by the way. Yes, and lovely. Yes.
Entonces, este juego no tiene reglas. Se juega en pareja o se juega con muchos amigos. Hay una que es de familia, adultos y parejas. A mí me gusta la de adultos porque tiene como de las dos. Entonces usted va a elegir una pregunta, cualquiera que sea, dígame si la puede contestar, porque a veces hacen preguntas aquí que me ruborizan a mí, imagínense. Usted la va a barajar,
Sí.
me las va a pasar. Okay, muévela.
Okay.
Ya. Muévela.
Sí. Okay.
Me las va a pasar de nuevo. No, todo.
No.
Va a elegir una. Lo que salga.
Sí.
Lo que salga. Oh my God, qué lindo momento. Me la pasa y le hago la pregunta.
Sí. There we go.
Ok. De todas las cosas que apestan en el mundo, ¿cuál es la que más le afecta? La que más le duele.
The one thing, hate.
La más importante.
Hate. So I think it goes back to compassion of human beings. You know, I have a strong belief in God, but I also believe that others have beliefs in other entities. So I believe in the freedom of religion for whatever, or somebody that may not. But in my belief in God, we're put on this earth to help others, not to be selfish, not to do things that are only good for us. And when I see the Donald Trumps of the world, who are only about our nation, only about what he can gain, lies to get what they want or he wants. I use him only as an example of where it has pulled up the hatred in the world of people who, if they don't look like me, is the opinion, then they don't have value. And If they don't think like me, they don't have value. If they don't believe in the same God that I believe in, and even in the same sect of religion that I do, then they're not worth anything. If they don't have the same color of skin, then they have no value. If they don't live in my country, they have no value. It's all about me. And I think that creates a hatred of it being them and me, or them and us, which then continues to segregate society. And I think we're seeing that in the United States, but it's perpetuating around the world. So that's why I hate, because that's a form of bullying. And I think when you see people speak out in the media in a very negative way about anyone, that I just see the hatred for people to get press for themselves, to make their radio show more popular, to make their TV show more popular. They create memes now with people's faces distorted that they think is funny, but they forget that these people have children. They have families. They're human beings. They may not agree. They may think that they're corrupt. They may think they've done something bad, but they don't realize they're human beings. And so they laugh. And that form of bullying is hate, and that's what I'm seeing more and more of. So that's my long story of why hate is the word that I see the most.
Muy sensible, muy humana. Realmente yo digo, cuando tú quieres entender a una persona, siempre ponte en el lugar de ella.
Sí.
Y vas a entenderlo
Sí.
todo. Señor embajador, estoy muy feliz de que esté con nosotros aquí en EH Plus. Habrá mucho James Wally en República Dominicana, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. A ustedes nos vemos próximamente en la próxima edición.